Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day today. This is Sharon with Statuist by Sharon. Thanks for tuning into my channel, to all of those who have been here before, and to all of you who are new. Welcome. Listen, I want to talk real quick about doing what God says to do and considering that before you say no, you're not going to do it, just consider that maybe it would have worked if you had done it, and let that be a pause for you before you walk away. Now, for those who have had any length of experience with the Lord and getting to know Him and learning to trust Him, which is all what building our faith in Him is all about. You know, we can't build our faith without having experiences that need us to build our faith, right? So if things are just going smooth all the time, you don't need to exercise faith for that. But when there is trouble brewing and problems that you can't solve or resolve, and you don't have anyone to turn to who can help you or who's willing to help you, and you realize all you have is to turn to the Lord, to trust Him. Sometimes, I think I've said this before, sometimes it's a setup because God wants you to learn how to build your faith in Him. And you're not going to build your faith without having a reason to do so, right? And so, what I was thinking about earlier is how, even in my own experiences, there have been times when I've needed help. I've been stuck. It's been an issue that I didn't know how to resolve, and I needed God's help. And a lot of times, He would tell me something to do that I really didn't want to do. And so, those of you out there who have had any experiences with the Lord will be able to relate to what I'm talking about, because there are times when I know me, and I'm sure for you as well, have asked God for direction, for some help, give you some instruction, show you how you're supposed to deal with this, and He'll tell you something that you completely either don't want to do or something that absolutely makes no kind of sense, and you already know the answer is not going to be what you want it to be, but yet God insists that you do what He's telling you to do. And so then at that point, you have to make the decision of, am I going to do this? Or am I just going to walk away because this doesn't even sound right? It sounds so crazy. Or sometimes your problem can be so big and God will tell you to do something that seems so minute. But you've got to make the decision. Are you going to obey? Or are you not? Now, I know a lot of times when we make the decision that we're going to obey, it's in the back of our minds. I know I'm not the only one where I feel like, if I go on and do this and it doesn't work anyway, and I figured it wasn't going to work because this just sounds so crazy, then, well, then what, God? But that's just a chance you have to take, because the truth of the matter is that exercising faith really is taking a chance. It's taking a chance in trusting God. It's taking a chance in believing that God will help us the way that He said that He would. Even if you need help and you've been asking Him for help for days or weeks and nothing has happened yet, don't give up. Keep going and keep trusting Him, because Jesus said we can have what we say if we believe in our heart and do not doubt. And that's the key. Even if it seems crazy, even if it seems impossible, it might be impossible for us to do. It might be impossible for everybody around us to do, but we know that it's not impossible for the God who we serve to do. There's nothing impossible to God. Only thing I understand that is impossible for God to do is to fail, and He will never fail us, right? Because, well, He can't. He's God. And so, listen, I was in line of all of this, I was thinking about a story in the Bible. So when I'm in a situation or I'm experiencing something, I like to try to think of a story in the Bible that connects to what I am going through or experiencing, or hear that someone else is experiencing. And I thought about the story of Naaman. Now, if you don't know the story of Naaman, I wrote it down. It is found in 2 Kings in the 5th chapter, verses 1 through 19. And if you get a chance, pull that up and read that. It's a good read. And the story of Naaman is about a general, big mighty general who was very, very well respected. The problem with him, though, is that he had leprosy. And you know, leprosy was a terrible, contagious disease that would eat away people's digits and limbs and their flesh. And it was just a horrible disease. And he was this mighty, powerful general who had leprosy. And so a servant that worked in his house, it was she served his wife actually. And the servant said that if Naaman would just go and visit the prophet in Israel, he would be healed of his leprosy. And so one thing led to another. Naaman ends up at the prophet's house in Israel. But Naaman, being a very proud, respected man, he became a little offended because when he went to the prophet's house, the prophet didn't even come to the door and greet him. The prophet didn't even, peek through the peephole or crack the door open and see who's there. He didn't come out at all to greet Naaman. And he sent a messenger to send a message to Naaman in terms of instruction on what to do about his leprosy. Well, Naaman was offended by that. The message that the prophet sent was for Naaman to go down to the Jordan River and dip 7 times. Well, big, bad, fierce Naaman, this big respected general from a neighboring army, he thought, well, first of all, you didn't come to the door and greet me. I thought that you would come out and, wave your hand over me and say some big lofty words over me about how God's going to heal me. And then your instructions are for me to go into the nasty Jordan River. I mean, why not send me to any of the other rivers that are around here that are surely more clean than the Jordan River? And I would think that since Naaman had leprosy, perhaps he was thinking, I don't need to be in some germ-infested river dipping 1 time, let alone 7 times. I mean, yeah, like I have leprosy. But when he was so offended, he turned to go away and just leave because his pride had gotten the best of him. But his servants that were with him said, no, maybe you want to just do what the man of God said to do and go on and dip in the Jordan River. Because, I mean, hey, after all, it might work, and it's one of those things where if I do it and it doesn't work, then I'm going to be very disappointed. But if I don't do it and it would have worked, then I'm really going to be disappointed. And the only way to know is to just go on and do what I was told to do. And so Naaman went on, I believe reluctantly, because again, he's this big, bad, highly respected general. And he goes on and he dips in the Jordan River. Now, can you imagine him having leprosy? Him already feeling some kind of way because he's this big, general, and he has this debilitating disease. He goes to the prophet in the neighboring country in Israel. The prophet doesn't even greet him, doesn't even give him a message face to face, and does not do some big fancy, abracadabra kind of thing, I guess, that Naaman was looking for. And on top of that, tells him with his leprosy to go dip in this dirty Jordan River. So Naaman goes on and does it anyway, and probably reluctantly, but he goes on and does it, and he dips once, and he dips twice. And can you imagine him dipping? And I don't know if there was maybe some kind of sludge or something getting, on him. And he's concerned about his leprosy, which he can't afford to have any wounds or cuts or tears in his skin to be infected. But he's dipping in this nasty Jordan River, and he's already got some kind of attitude at the prophet who didn't even greet him properly and showed no kind of honor or big deal, reverence towards Naaman. But he goes on and he dips 7 times. And when he dipped that 7th time, lo and behold, he was healed. And so I want to share that with you because sometimes God will tell us to do something that sounds crazy. Sometimes it sounds very unappealing. Sometimes it sounds very simple and minute compared to this big problem I have got, and you're telling me to do something like that. Like the time when I talked about this in a previous video, when I needed over $600, and God told me to count up some pennies that were in the house, and find that video and you'll see how that turned out. But it was crazy, and I was like, well, this does not match the problem that I have. And perhaps that's what you are experiencing right now too. What God is telling you to do does not match the magnitude of the problem you have, or what he's telling you to do sounds very unappealing, or what he's saying to do, you just cannot figure out or fathom how what he's saying is going to work for you. And the only thing I can tell you is that if you are confident in your spirit that God has told you to do it, just do what he said to do. Now, I will say that when a person that you don't know if they've really heard from God or not, and somebody just says do so, you got to know when God is speaking. He might speak through someone you know. God is so awesome. He can speak to you through a billboard. God can, if he can speak through a donkey in the Bible, he can speak through anybody or anything. But you've got to build your own relationship with the Lord so you will know when he's speaking to you. And when he tells you to do something, even when it sounds unappealing or it doesn't make sense or it's something you kind of roll your eyes at, when you get finished rolling your eyes, do what God said to do and see what happens for you. Because God said obedience is better than sacrifice. And it means a lot to God when you obey even his craziest sounding commands. But you know, if you are desperate enough, you'll do what God said to do. And if you are feeling like, I'm not going to do that, that's just because you are not desperate enough. So I guess this message is for those who are desperate for some help and desperate for some guidance, and they know that God is the only one who can help them. God is their only resource. And so go to your resource. Go to the one who you are certain can help you. The only one, like we talked about earlier, who cannot fail. That's the only thing God is incapable of doing, is failing. So trust him and just see what happens. All right. Again, this is Sharon with Statuesque by Sharon. And don't turn away from God's instructions. Don't find yourself asking one day, what if that would have worked? All right. I love y'all. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.